It had been years since my home was filled with genuine laughter. When my 22-year-old nephew came to stay during his college break, I thought it would be just a short visit, some shared meals, and conversation. I didn't expect his presence, too gently, yet deeply, changed the rhythm of my life. He was thoughtful, calm, and more mature than most his age. There was something in his eyes, like he had experienced emotions he kept quietly inside. Our bond started simply: tea together, quiet talks, even peaceful silence. He helped around the house folding laundry, fixing things, and it felt like he belonged. One afternoon, while we were trimming the roses, he asked me, "What makes you smile these days?" I didn't know how to answer. No one had asked me that in years, but that moment stuck with me. As days passed, I began to notice how he looked at me, not in a way that crossed lines, but with a deep, quiet admiration. He noticed the little things: how I reacted during movies, when I was tired, or when I needed tea without asking. And I started to notice how alive the house felt again, how I thought about him when he wasn't around. At first, I reminded myself he was my nephew. But it became harder to box in what was unfolding. It wasn't inappropriate, it was emotional, gentle, honest. I began to feel things I hadn't in a long time. Warmth, being seen, appreciated, not as a relative, but as a woman who still mattered. One night, while I stared into space, he asked if I was okay. I smiled, but didn't answer. He didn't press. Later, as I stood by his closed door, I whispered to myself, "There's something here. I don't know what it is, but I feel it." The next morning, he poured me tea in silence. That simple act carried so much. We were slowly building something real, something unspoken. On a rainy evening, sitting close, he looked at me differently, with vulnerability. "Can I tell you something without you judging me?" he asked. I nodded, heart pounding. He paused, then said, "You've always been more than just family to me. Not in a wrong way. You made me feel safe." He admitted he had admired me since his teens. Not as a boy with a crush, but as a man who saw me, valued me. He said, "I've always wished, just once, to feel what it's like to be held by you. Not for anything else, just to feel close." His voice carried no pressure, just longing. And strangely, I didn't feel offended, I felt seen. It wasn't about age or rules anymore, it was about the loneliness I had buried, and the part of me that needed to feel wanted. So I said yes, quietly, without explanation. He gently reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away. We sat like that, hand in hand, in complete silence. His wish wasn't inappropriate, it was deeply emotional, and in that moment, I let myself feel it too. That night, I felt peace I hadn't known in years. Not guilt, not shame, just warmth. The next day wasn't awkward. He made breakfast, smiled at me with calm familiarity, and everything felt natural. We didn't need to speak about what had happened, we both understood. Throughout the day, his gestures were soft, brushing hair from my eyes, touching my arm lightly. He never acted entitled. His affection was quiet and respectful. And I found myself smiling more, laughing more, even standing taller. I didn't feel like just an auntie, felt like a woman again. That evening, we sat outside with coffee. He asked, "Did I cross a line?" I told him, "You didn't push, you were honest." He nodded and said, "I just want to be someone you can trust. Someone who makes you feel cared for." He didn't try to claim me. He didn't try to label what we shared. It was just warmth. Gentle connection. Something real. He began calling me by my name more often, and I realized how much of myself I had lost beneath roles and expectations. I didn't care what it looked like on the outside. I cared about how he made me feel, seen, heard, appreciated. Before bed, he paused by my door and whispered, "I'll never take more than you're willing to give." And I believed him. What we shared wasn't reckless, was tender, careful, and that made it powerful. As the days went by, nothing felt forced. He didn't rush me. I opened up in ways I hadn't in years. I shared fears, regrets, the ways I'd shut down. He didn't try to fix me. He just listened, and showed me that none of those things made me less worthy of love. One day, he told me, "This might not make sense to others, but it makes sense to me. You make sense to me." I couldn't answer with words. I just held his gaze. I felt it too. Even the simplest things became meaningful: tea, shared glances, quiet touches. He remembered how I liked things, what books I read, how my voice changed when I was tired. And he cherished me for all of it, never asking for more than I offered. One night, he said, You taught me what real affection looks like, not chasing, not performing, just being seen. That moment melted something inside me. When his break neared its end, I didn't panic. What we shared wasn't fleeting, it lived in how we cared. We had rewritten our story, not with titles, but with understanding. Before he left, he held my hand and said, "You gave me something I'll carry forever." And I smiled because I had to.